The Roman Empire, one of the most powerful civilizations in history, is known for its military might, vast architecture, and sophisticated culture. But it is also remembered for one of its most gruesome and iconic spectacles, the gladiatorial games. These bloody contests, held in grand amphitheaters like the Colosseum, captured the imagination of the Roman people and became one of the empire's most famous traditions. Gladiators, men and women who fought to the death for the entertainment of others, became symbols of strength, courage, and endurance, often earning fame and wealth in the process. But how did these men, often slaves or criminals, rise from their humble beginnings to become the heroes of the arena? What was the true significance of gladiatorial combat in ancient Rome, and why did it hold such an important place in Roman culture? To answer these questions, we must first understand the origins of gladiators and the brutal spectacles that they participated in. Origins of gladiatorial combat. The term gladiator comes from the Latin word gladius, meaning sword. Gladiatorial combat first emerged as part of funeral rites in early Roman history. It is believed that the first recorded gladiatorial games took place in 264 BCE, when two Roman aristocrats, Decimus Junius Brutus and Marcus Fabius, organized a fight between slaves to honor their deceased father. This display of violence was intended to show respect for the deceased by offering the gods a bloody spectacle in their honor. Over time, these rituals evolved into larger events held in honor of military victories or other significant public occasions. As the tradition grew, the Roman Empire saw gladiatorial combat shift from a religious observance to a full-blown entertainment industry. The games were no longer just part of a funeral service. They became a way for emperors and politicians to gain favor with the public. They were seen as a demonstration of Roman values like courage, discipline, and strength. Gladiators became celebrities, with some achieving fame that rivaled even the most powerful men in Rome. The role of gladiators in Roman society. While gladiators were initially drawn from slaves, prisoners of war, and criminals, some free men volunteered to fight in the arena. These men, called octorati, sought glory and fame as their reasons for becoming gladiators, hoping to win wealth and public admiration. The life of a gladiator was grueling and dangerous, with death or permanent injury a constant threat. Yet, the allure of fame and fortune, and the possibility of winning freedom from slavery or gaining the favor of the emperor, made it an enticing choice for some. The significance of the gladiators in Roman society extended far beyond the arena. They were symbols of Roman masculinity, representing the ultimate test of strength, endurance, and bravery. Gladiatorial contests were seen as a way to prove one's physical prowess and loyalty to the empire. These events provided a forum for the display of courage in the face of death, reinforcing the values that the Roman military sought to instill in its soldiers. However, not all gladiators were viewed as mere fighters. Some rose to superstardom, becoming legends of the arena. These gladiators were admired by the public and feared by their opponents. Their names became known across the empire, and their success in the arena was celebrated with the same reverence given to great generals and emperors. In the next part, we will explore the rise to fame of some of these legendary gladiators who overcame unimaginable odds to become icons of the Roman world. Gladiators weren't simply fighters, they were the epitome of Roman ideals: strength, resilience, and discipline. While many gladiators entered the arena as slaves or criminals, some broke free from their origins and became legends in the eyes of the Roman people. In this part, we will delve into the lives of the gladiators who transcended their brutal existence and achieved legendary status, earning not only fame, but also fortune and admiration from emperors and citizens alike. The gladiator schools, ludi. Before a gladiator ever set foot in the arena, they had to train rigorously in gladiator schools, or ludi. These schools were spread across the Roman Empire and were specifically designed to turn ordinary men into warriors capable of surviving the brutal conditions of the arena. Gladiators were trained in various fighting styles, depending on their type, and taught to wield different weapons, from swords and shields to tridents and nets. The training was grueling and strict, with gladiators spending months, or even years, perfecting their combat skills. The most famous and successful gladiators came from the ludi that offered the best training and the most experienced trainers. These schools became the birthplace of many future legends, where gladiators honed their skills and forged the reputation that would carry them into the history books. Famous gladiators who defied fate. Some gladiators, like Spartacus, rose to fame not only because of their exceptional fighting skills, but because of their incredible stories. Spartacus, a Thracian gladiator, is perhaps the most famous of all, largely because of the massive slave revolt he led against the Roman Republic. Although he was eventually defeated, his rebellion left a permanent mark on history, showing the power and influence that gladiators could wield. However, Spartacus was not the only gladiator to capture the imagination of the Roman populace. There were other notable gladiators who became legends in their own right. These fighters became symbols of rebellion, strength, and courage, inspiring countless individuals who heard their tales. The story of Commodus, emperor turned gladiator. One of the most famous gladiators in Roman history was Commodus, the son of the renowned emperor Marcus Aurelius. However, unlike other gladiators, Commodus wasn't a slave or a prisoner. He was born into privilege and power, but he was also a man with a desire to prove his worth in the arena. Commodus is one of the rare instances where an emperor became a gladiator, and his story is one of the most controversial in Roman history. Despite being the emperor, Commodus fought as a gladiator in the arena. He was known for his extravagant displays, often fighting for his own amusement, and even participating in the games himself. According to ancient accounts, Commodus would fight in staged battles where he was often pitted against unarmed or disabled opponents, ensuring his victory. His participation in the games shocked many Romans who were used to seeing gladiators as slaves or criminals, not emperors. While Commodus' actions were seen as disgraceful by many, they also cemented his place in history as one of the most infamous emperors to ever fight in the arena. His reign ended in assassination, but his legacy as a gladiator and emperor remains infamous to this day. The gladiators' triumph, fame, fortune, and freedom. For many gladiators, the ultimate prize was freedom. If a gladiator survived long enough to impress the crowds, they could win their freedom and be awarded a rudis, a wooden sword symbolizing their release from the arena. The rewards for legendary gladiators were not just about freedom. They were also about wealth and status. Some gladiators, particularly those who won numerous battles, were given large sums of money, land, and lavish gifts. These gladiators often became stars of the Roman world, receiving attention from the elite and sometimes even from the emperor. Wealthy Roman citizens would sometimes sponsor gladiators, providing them with the best weapons, armor, and food to ensure their victory in the arena. These gladiators, who were once slaves, became wealthy celebrities who lived in luxury after their time in the arena. One such example was Flamma, a Syrian gladiator who fought in over 30 matches and was awarded the rudis 4 times. Despite being granted his freedom, Flamma chose to continue fighting in the arena, preferring the glory and wealth that came with being a famous gladiator. His story is a perfect example of how some gladiators found more than just survival. They found fame, fortune, and a place in the hearts of Roman citizens. The impact of gladiators on Roman society. Gladiatorial games were more than just a form of entertainment. They were deeply ingrained in the fabric of Roman society. The games served as a way for emperors and politicians to gain favor with the public, showcasing their ability to provide grand spectacles for the masses. The gladiators themselves, whether free men or slaves, were revered for their courage and skill in the arena. The popularity of gladiatorial combat also reflected Roman values, such as bravery, endurance, and the ability to endure suffering. These values were deeply embedded in Roman military culture, where soldiers were expected to show similar qualities. Gladiators became symbols of Roman strength, and their stories inspired the citizens of the empire to admire qualities that were central to Roman identity. Part 3. The gladiators who shaped Roman history. As gladiators gained popularity, many became not only warriors in the arena, but also figures who shaped the political and social landscape of Rome. Some gladiators won the admiration of the people, while others became symbolic figures of rebellion or defiance against the empire. This part will focus on the gladiators who transcended their role as fighters, leaving a legacy that echoed through Roman history. The greatest gladiators of Rome, living legends, many gladiators, became household names across the empire. Their victories in the arena made them legends, and their stories were recited in Roman homes and discussed in the public squares. Some of these gladiators were so successful that they earned the title of Rudis multiple times, a symbol of their exceptional skill and valor. Spartacus is undoubtedly the most famous of all gladiators, but there were others whose names were etched into Roman lore for their bravery and combat prowess. 1. Priscus and Verus. The rivalry that endured. Two of the most famous gladiators in the history of Rome were Priscus and Verus. Their rivalry reached legendary status, and their battles in the arena were the stuff of Roman legend. According to ancient historians, these two gladiators fought in the arena of the Colosseum during the reign of Emperor Titus, and their battle was one of the most anticipated events in Roman history. The fight was said to have been so evenly matched that neither fighter could defeat the other. The crowd watched in awe as they battled for hours, unable to decide a victor. In the end, the two gladiators were awarded the Rudis, and both were granted their freedom. Their fight was not only a testament to their skill, but also a symbol of the gladiatorial code. Fighting to the death was not always the end, and sometimes honor and skill were rewarded. 2. Flamma, the gladiator who chose to fight forever. Flamma was a Syrian gladiator known for his remarkable strength and his ability to fight in multiple styles. He was a famous figure in the arena and fought in over 30 battles, winning many of them. His most unique claim to fame was that he was awarded the Rudis 4 times, the ultimate prize for any gladiator. Despite being granted his freedom, Flamma chose to continue fighting. His love for the arena and the adoration of the crowds kept him in the fight. Flamma's choice to continue battling, even after achieving the ultimate reward, made him one of the most celebrated gladiators in Roman history. He became an icon of dedication and sacrifice, and his story inspired future generations of gladiators. 3. Crixus, the gladiator who led a revolt. Crixus was another legendary gladiator who, like Spartacus, led a revolt against the Roman Empire. Though not as famous as Spartacus, Crixus played a crucial role in the Third Servile War, the most significant slave revolt in Roman history. Originally a gladiator at the Ludus in Capua, Crixus became one of the leaders of the slave army that fought against the Roman Republic. Though the revolt ultimately ended in failure, Crixus's leadership and courage in battle earned him a place in history. He became a symbol of defiance against Roman oppression, and his story is often remembered alongside that of Spartacus as an example of the struggle for freedom in the Roman world. The role of gladiators in Roman politics. Gladiators, as they became more popular, started to have an influence on Roman politics. Emperors and politicians saw the power of the gladiators in the arena and recognized their ability to sway public opinion. Some gladiators were used by the emperors as tools for political gain, while others used their fame to exert influence over the ruling class. 1. The power of the gladiatorial games in Roman propaganda. The gladiatorial games were more than just entertainment. They were a tool of political control. Emperors used these games to gain favor with the masses, often using lavish spectacles to distract the people from political issues. The games were a symbol of Roman power, wealth, and control, and the gladiators were central to this spectacle. Emperors like Commodus would participate in the games themselves, fighting as gladiators to prove their strength and connection to the people. While Commodus was often ridiculed for his theatrical participation in the arena, his actions were part of a larger strategy to maintain control over the Roman populace. 2. The role of gladiators in Roman rebellion. Gladiators, like Spartacus and Crixus, also played significant roles in Roman rebellions. Their status as fighters in the arena gave them a sense of camaraderie and loyalty that they extended to each other. This bond often transcended their roles as slaves or prisoners, and when they saw an opportunity to rise against their oppressors, they took it. The gladiators who joined Spartacus's rebellion, for example, were not simply seeking freedom. They were fighting against a system that had long oppressed them. Their courage in the face of overwhelming odds made them heroes in the eyes of the people. Even in defeat, their story became a symbol of resistance. The decline of gladiatorial combat. As the Roman Empire began to decline, so too did the gladiatorial games. By the 5th century AD, the games were seen as less of a political tool and more of a barbaric relic of a bygone era. The rise of Christianity in Rome also played a significant role in the decline of the gladiatorial games, as the Christian Church condemned the practice as cruel and inhumane. Emperors like Honorius and Theodosius passed laws that eventually put an end to the gladiatorial games. The last recorded gladiatorial combat in the Roman Empire occurred in 404 AD, marking the end of an era. Despite their decline, however, the legacy of the gladiators continued to live on, and their stories remained ingrained in Roman culture for centuries. While the gladiatorial games may have ended in the Roman Empire, the legacy of these warriors continues to echo through history, art, literature, and modern culture. The stories of gladiators have transcended time, influencing everything from cinema and television to modern-day discussions of justice, survival, and freedom. The end of gladiatorial combat as the Roman Empire weakened and Christianity became the dominant force in the empire. The gladiatorial games started to lose their place in Roman society. The first steps toward their decline began with the reign of Emperor Constantine in the early 4th century. Constantine's conversion to Christianity and the rise of the Church meant that many once accepted practices, such as gladiatorial combat, were now under scrutiny. 1. Christian influence and the ban on gladiatorial games. The Christian Church, which had gained significant influence in Rome by the 4th century, began to preach against the brutality of the gladiatorial games. Religious leaders argued that the games were not only cruel, but also morally wrong, as they glorified violence and death. Pope Innocent I made a significant move in 404 AD when he decreed that no more gladiatorial combat would take place, primarily due to the influence of Christianity and the shift in public opinion. In 404 AD, Honorius, the Roman emperor, issued a law that formally banned gladiatorial combat in the empire. This marked the final blow to the tradition, ending the practice of using human lives for entertainment in the arena. The Church's stance on this issue became a major factor in its demise. Gladiators in art and literature. Even after the games ceased, gladiators remained a popular subject in art, literature, and the imagination of future generations. The image of the gladiator, brave, defiant, and often facing death for the entertainment of others, became a symbol of resistance, honor, and personal sacrifice. 1. Gladiators in Roman art. Roman art, including frescoes, mosaics, and statues, often depicted scenes from gladiatorial combat. These depictions show gladiators in dramatic, heroic poses, often just before battle or in moments of victory. In many ways, these artworks immortalized the gladiators and captured the public's admiration for their strength, skill, and courage. These depictions also played a significant role in propagating the gladiator mythos, where their valor was celebrated and their story became larger than life. 2. Gladiators in modern literature and film. In modern literature, film, and popular culture, gladiators have been portrayed as icons of bravery and personal triumph. Movies like Gladiator 2000, starring Russell Crowe, and Spartacus 1960, directed by Stanley Kubrick, brought the stories of gladiators back into the limelight, further embedding them into the collective consciousness of audiences worldwide. The portrayal of Spartacus, in particular, has been a key influence. His story has been retold many times, focusing not just on his role as a gladiator, but also on his leadership in the revolt against Rome. This narrative of a slave rising against oppression has resonated with audiences, making Spartacus a symbol of resistance and the fight for freedom. Modern adaptations, including the Spartacus TV series, continue to highlight the dramatic struggle of these men and their quest for liberty. 3. Gladiators in historical fictions. Fictional accounts of gladiators have also contributed to their ongoing popularity. Novels, plays, and historical fiction have used gladiators as central figures in stories that often explore themes of loyalty, honor, freedom, and rebellion. Their lives were seen as both tragic and heroic, with many stories emphasizing the brutal realities of their existence, as well as their resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Gladiators as symbols of modern resistance. In contemporary discussions, gladiators have come to symbolize more than just fighters in an arena. They are often seen as symbols of resistance against oppression and the fight for personal dignity. The gladiator's courage in the face of death has been used as a metaphor in various political and social movements throughout history. 1. Gladiators as symbols of defiance. The gladiatorial tradition has been used in modern times as a symbol of defiance against oppressive regimes or systems. In the 20th century, figures who fought against tyranny, such as political activists and revolutionaries, have been compared to gladiators. This comparison highlights the bravery of those who, like the gladiators of Rome, challenge powerful forces, knowing that their actions may result in their own demise. The Spartacus uprising has been particularly influential, with the figure of Spartacus becoming an enduring symbol for freedom movements around the world. His legacy as a leader of the slaves who dared to challenge the might of the Roman Empire resonates with those who fight for equality and justice today. 2. Gladiators and the modern arena. In the world of professional sports, especially combat sports like boxing, mixed martial arts,